From the Pep Radio Newsroom, this is the News Blast for this hour. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the plaintiffs in Mahmoud v. Taylor, the case brought by parents who said their First Amendment rights were violated when schools used books that included LGBTQ plus characters. The decision was 6-3 along ideological lines, with the Republican-appointed justices siding with the religious parents who wanted to opt their children out of reading books like Prince and Knight and Uncle Bobby's Wedding in the Montgomery County, Maryland school system. The court does not accept the board's characterizations of the LGBTQ plus inclusive instruction as mere exposure to objectionable ideas or as lessons in mutual respect. Justice Samuel Alito wrote for the majority, the storybooks unmistakably convey a particular viewpoint about same-sex marriage and gender. Might I remind Justice Alito, it's one that your former Justice Anthony Kennedy ruled in Obergefell v. Hodges was quite legal here in the United States. Regardless, the question in cases of this kind is whether the educational requirement or curriculum at issue would substantially interfere with religious development of the child or pose a very real threat of undermining the religious beliefs and practices the parent wishes to instill in the child. So in other words, the child has to go through its entire life up through 18 years before breaking free of the parents and potentially breaking free of those ideological beliefs that hold it in chains to whatever it is the parents think. Casting aside longstanding precedent, the court invents a constitutional right to avoid exposure to subtle themes contrary to the religious principles that parents wish to instill in their children. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissenting opinion, exposing students to the message that LGBTQ people exist and that their loved ones may celebrate their marriages and life events, the majority says, is enough to trigger the most demanding form of judicial scrutiny. The case involved several sets of Christian and Muslim parents who objected to their kids reading their books that mentioned LGBTQ plus people. The district had an opt-out policy that they later rescinded because the district claimed the opt-outs were becoming unworkable. Some parents in the district protested to get the opt-out policy reinstated, while others protested in favor of learning about LGBTQ plus people. The books geared to younger kids are just showing a diverse range of families, said Christina Salenza, a mother of a student in the district during one of the 2023 protests. We have a two-mom household, so my wife and I are really proud and out, and of course my kid in kindergarten or pre-K is going to probably talk about his family and his two moms. The district didn't budge, so several parents sued. Two lower courts denied them a preliminary injunction, but the Supreme Court just granted them one. The parents want the courts to ultimately order teachers to notify them of every possible discussion where LGBTQ plus people may come up so that they could opt their children out, lest their kids learn about, LGBTQ people in their existence. They claim that knowing that LGBTQ plus people exist is contrary to their religious beliefs and violates their right to direct their children's religious upbringing. Public education advocates warn that the ruling could lead to even more requests for opt-outs of public education and wide-ranging topics including Earth Day, critical thinking, and anti-drug programs. Free speech and LGBTQ plus advocates denounced the ruling. This ruling is a deeply disappointing blow to the right to read under the First Amendment, said U.S. Free Expression Program's staff attorney for PEN America, Ellie Brinkley, in a statement. It is a fundamental betrayal of public schools' duty to prepare students to live in a diverse and pluralistic society by allowing parents to pull their children out of classrooms when they object to particular content. The justices are laying the foundation for a new frontier in the assault on books and all kinds in schools. Does this mean that parents will have the right to pull their kids out of biology class because they believe that God created the earth in 7 days? What kind of idiocy is emanating from the U.S. Supreme Court? While religious liberty is fundamentally important, no, it's not. It should not force public schools to exempt students from lessons that don't align with their family's personal religious or cultural beliefs, said Equality California Executive Director Tony Huang in a statement. LGBTQ plus themed books are already among the most banned and challenged in school districts and libraries across the country. Today's decision will make it even harder for these books to find their way into the hands of students who simply want to read and who may find validation and acceptance in the process. Today's ruling does not change schools' obligation to prepare students to interact with and thrive in a diverse and ever-changing world, said GLAD Law's Mary L. Bonato. LGBTQ plus people and families exist. Students in our public schools have LGBTQ plus parents, and books that include LGBTQ plus people should not be treated differently than those without LGBTQ plus people. The court's decision does not require our schools to abandon these efforts. Parents, students, educators, and neighbors can encourage opportunities for learning about diverse people and families by staying involved with school districts, school boards, and in our local communities. And this is purely commentary. Both Justices Samuel Trump Squared Alito and Uncle Ruckus, aka Clarence Thomas, need to retire and leave the limelight. They are both in lockstep with the Trump regime and causing real harm. They have no credence, and frankly, they don't understand the simple concept of stare decisis, meaning that which the court has already settled. We have numerous cases siding with the LGBTQ plus community. They were perfectly fine. The Supreme Court was perfectly fine approving the Windsor decision in 2013. They were perfectly fine approving the Obergefell v. Hodges decision in 2015. And yes, that was a different court with a different composition of judges. I get that. However, we live under the Trump regime now, with his appointed bench that will long outlive me. The stinging, harsh rebukes from Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, and Brown-Jackson should stand in stark contrast to the noxious and prevalent bullshit spewed from the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday as people continue to die under their horrendous rulings. May they never be able to scrub the blood off their hands. And this is to you, Justice Alito and Justice Ruckus. That is the goddamn news blast for this hour. Here's the Meadville area weather forecast on PEP Radio.